2nd. Joining me now is the second-ranking Democrat in the Senate and a member of the Judiciary Committee, and whose ears must have been burning just now because we were talking about his exchanges. It's Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois. Senator Durbin, thanks for joining us here during your lunch break. I hope you get something to eat. Look, you asked some interesting questions to her. You just heard Claire McCaskill's disappointment with some of the answers there. What's a follow-up you wish you want to ask coming forward? And what did you make of her? Let's start with the gun answer.
Well, Chuck, last night I was sitting in my apartment with stacks of all these cases and articles and suggested questions, and I thought to myself for a minute, what would the average person ask of her about something that could really relate to her official duties? And I thought about George Floyd, and I thought we all remember that 8-minute, 46-second experience and what it meant to us. I wanted to know what it meant to her, but I wanted to hook it up not just with her answer, but also with what she has written. And Claire put her finger on it. The question came before the court, and she dissented. She was the sole dissent in the case, wrote 37 pages of dissent on a 27-page opinion. So she really expounded on her thoughts on this. And it boiled down to this. She believes that you cannot keep a firearm out of the hands of a felon unless he has been convicted of violent felonies. And the other two disagreed, and every other circuit has disagreed with her conclusion. But then added to that was the whole question of voting. And Claire got to it. She knew exactly where I was headed. And when it came to voting, commission of a felony was enough to disqualify. When it came to buying a firearm, not so in the mind of Amy Coney Barrett. That's quite a distinction. And what I was trying to do was make the point that denial of voting rights has been a traditional effort to suppress African Americans in this country. That, to me, is racially motivated throughout our history. And I tried to connect the two up. So perhaps if I had a follow-up question, I would pursue that a little more.
Well, I'm just curious if her answer to you was, you know what, you're right. And in fact, voting, connecting voting rights to this should be subjective. It's essentially what she's arguing, is that some of these rights that you get taken away should be subjective when it comes to convictions.
But it boiled down to this. Here was a swindler who ended up paying $27 million in a civil settlement for cheating America and our government agency, who says, I think this is terrible. You took away my Second Amendment rights for my conviction. Yes, we sure did. And her conclusion was, that's unfair. It's just a felony, just a felony. I don't get that. And secondly, I really do appreciate and don't question her feelings about the George Floyd situation. We have African Americans in our family, and I will tell you, I've thought about it as a grandfather over and over again. But when it comes to her decision on the right to vote being denied people because of felony convictions, the victims overwhelmingly are African Americans and have been throughout history.
You and I had a conversation about what Joe Biden said about court packing on Sunday, and I sort of hinted, I said, the fact that he uses that phrase, is that a tell? Well, let me play for you something Joe Biden said last night and get you to react to it. Here it is. It's SOT 15, control room. Well, I'll read it to you. I'm told we don't have it. He said, I'm not a fan of court packing, but I don't want to get off on that whole issue. I want to keep focused. The point is, he has now expressed a preference here. Are you comfortable expressing a preference?
Listen, I know Joe Biden. I respect him. I'm voting for him enthusiastically. And I know that he is a person on the Senate Judiciary Committee who had a wealth of opinions on almost every subject. And I'm not surprised that he wants to at least somehow raise this as part of the national conversation. I can tell you point blank, Chuck, there is no ongoing committee to reform the judiciary set up by Democrats anywhere that I know of. We have a focus now on this Supreme Court nomination and this election, period.
Where are you on the filibuster? Because that is connected to this question, right? You eliminate the filibuster, everything is the 50. I mean, and that's ultimately, obviously, where folks are going. Some people think it's that may be the more realistic place you guys might go is D.C. statehood or something like that. But where are you on that question?
I'm troubled by the filibuster because I've seen what it's done when it's been abused. In the McConnell era, we have seen more uses of the filibuster than ever in the history of the United States Senate. He's not only used it, he's abused it. It's become the McConnell veto. And he just steps in and he wants to preserve this. Now we have Republicans who readily concede on the floor of the Senate that we have lost our reputation as a deliberative body considering amendments and legislation. We don't do that anymore. And they concede that point, and then they say, but we've got to preserve Mitch McConnell's right to veto whatever he wants coming to the floor. And that's what the filibuster means today.
There was one other piece of news that happened while you were at the hearing room, and I would like to get you to react to it. Mitt Romney put out a statement basically surrounding the events that took place in Michigan, the attempted kidnapping of the Michigan governor. We now found out the Virginia governor was on that list as well. Here's what he writes. I'm troubled by our politics as it moved away from the spirited debate to a vile, vituperative, hate-filled morass that is unbecoming of any free nation, let alone the birthplace of democracy. The president calls the Democratic vice presidential candidate a monster. He repeatedly labels the Speaker of the House crazy. He calls for the Justice Department to put the prior president in jail. He attacks the governor of Michigan on the very day a plot is discovered to kidnap her. Democrats launch blistering attacks of their own, though their presidential nominee refuses to stoop as low as others. He goes on to name check a couple of people, somebody from the very far left in media world, and he called out Speaker Pelosi for some of her actions. I'm just curious of what you think of Senator Romney's statement.
Thanks, Mitt. Thanks for saying it. I wish more people would say the same thing. And certainly in the Republican ranks, you can count on one hand the people who've had the nerve to step up and say something. When this president said he was going to ignore the decision of the electorate, wasn't going to commit himself to accepting the peaceful transition of power, who spoke up against him? Two people that I knew of, Mitt Romney and the Republican governor of Massachusetts. That's it. Yeah. End of story. And you think to yourself, that should be a universal reaction. Bipartisan universal reaction that is disgusting and repugnant that a president would not accept the decision of the electorate.
Senator Dick Durbin, Democrat from Illinois, I appreciate you coming on during your lunch break, and I hope you do get something to eat. Thanks for your time. Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.